Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a place where there are no roads, no buildings, no borders. Just an endless rolling expanse of deep, indigo water, stretching out under a canopy of shifting clouds. The air is thick with salt, and the only sounds are the rhythmic crash of waves and the ceaseless driving breath of the wind. This is the open ocean. It is a place of profound beauty, ancient mystery, and unforgiving power. I am your host, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to episode 1 of the Kalopa Mission Control Podcast. Each week, we will gather here to track the autonomous robotic sailing activities of Kalopa Robotics. We will follow our small, intrepid vessels as they navigate the vastness of the Atlantic, and along the way, we will explore the science, the history, and the delicate ecology of the marine world they travel through. Our journey begins with a grand endeavour known as the Microtransat Challenge. For those who might be new to the world of autonomous marine robotics, the Microtransat Challenge is quite simply a transatlantic race for fully autonomous boats. It was conceived over a decade ago with a noble and ambitious goal to stimulate the development of autonomous marine vessels through friendly international competition. The premise sounds deceptively simple. You build a boat no longer than 2.4 meters or about 8 feet. You program its navigation systems. You set it in the water off the coast of Europe or North America, and you ask it to sail across the Atlantic Ocean entirely on its own. No human intervention, no remote control steering, just sensors, algorithms, and the wind. Of course, the Atlantic Ocean is a harsh and impartial judge. Over the years, there has been a rich and varied history of teams from universities, research institutes, and private garages who have taken part in this challenge. Many boats have been lost to the deep. They have been battered by rogue waves, captured by deep-sea fishermen, swallowed by violent squalls, entangled in vast mats of seaweed, or simply had their electronics corroded by the relentless creeping intrusion of salt water. To merely survive the Microtransat is a triumph of engineering. To complete it is to make history. And that brings us to the Kalopa Robotics fleet. We plan to launch one of our Granuaile class of autonomous boats off the coast of Newfoundland in the next 18 months. This boat will traverse the North Atlantic according to the strict rules of the autonomous class in the Microtransat race. She will hopefully reach the Irish coastline without any interference or update from us, alone with no weather data and no rerouting information. Nothing but the wind to drive her, the GPS to guide her, and the sun to replenish her batteries. As we monitor these robotic vessels in their day-to-day activities, it is impossible not to think about the broader state of the waters they traverse. Our boats are small, but the ocean is vast. It is the defining feature of our planet, the great blue heart that regulates our climate, produces the oxygen we breathe, and sustains an intricate, interconnected web of life. Yet, for all its immense scale, the ocean is profoundly vulnerable, and this week the maritime and scientific communities are observing a truly historic milestone in the protection of this global commons. On the 17th of January 2026, the High Seas Treaty, formerly known as the Agreement on Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, or BBNJ, officially entered into force. To understand why this is so monumental, we must look at how the ocean is governed. Coastal nations have jurisdiction over the waters extending 200 nautical miles from their shores. But beyond those borders lie the high seas. These international waters make up roughly 2/3 of the global ocean and nearly half of the planet's surface. For centuries, the high seas have been treated as a frontier. They belong to no one, and therefore they were the responsibility of no one. It was a regulatory void where industrial fishing, shipping, and resource extraction could operate largely unchecked. Before this treaty, less than 1% of these international waters were fully protected. The High Seas Treaty changes that. Having been ratified by over 80 countries, it establishes, for the very first time, a legally binding framework to conserve and sustainably use marine biodiversity in these shared waters. One of the most vital mechanisms of this treaty is the power to establish marine protected areas, or MPAs, on the high seas. This is the crucial step required to meet the global 30 by 30 target, the commitment to protect 30% of the world's ocean by the year 2030. But as Dr. Katie Matthews, chief scientist at Oceana, wisely noted this week, a treaty on paper won't save the ocean. What matters now is turning words into action. The need for action is starkly illuminated by the news coming from our coastal and international waters. Consider the practice of bottom trawling. Across the globe, from the waters off the United Kingdom to the deep sea plains, industrial trawlers drag heavy weighted nets across the seafloor to catch shrimp and groundfish. In doing so, they crush ancient marine habitats, they tear up deep water corals that have grown slowly over millennia, and they churn up seabed sediments, releasing carbon that has been safely stored away for centuries. Recent reports from the Marine Conservation Society highlight that bottom trawling is still permitted in the vast majority of Europe's so-called protected coastal waters. It is a heartbreaking irony that areas designated as sanctuaries on paper are still being scraped bare in practice. The High Seas Treaty aims to prevent this exact type of paper park scenario in international waters, requiring rigorous environmental impact assessments for any planned activity that could harm the marine environment. We also see the pressure on the foundation of the marine food web. In the frigid waters of the Antarctic, industrial super trawlers are harvesting immense quantities of krill, the tiny crustaceans that sustain whales, penguins, and seals. With sea ice declining due to climate change, the concentration of these fishing fleets in the remaining feeding grounds has put the entire Southern Ocean ecosystem under unprecedented stress. And it is not just the physical extraction of life that threatens the ocean, it is the invisible pollutants we introduce. As global shipping traffic increases, the ocean is becoming a deafeningly loud place. Underwater radiated noise from massive ship engines and propellers travels vast distances. For marine mammals like blue whales and bottlenose dolphins, who rely on sound to navigate, communicate, and find food, this acoustic smog is disorienting and deeply stressful. When you look at the telemetry of our Kalopa autonomous boats, skimming silently across the surface of the ocean, powered entirely by the sun and the wind, you realize the contrast. Our robots are a testament to the fact that human engineering can exist in the marine environment without dominating it. They do not pollute. They do not drag nets. They do not add to the deafening roar beneath the waves. They are quiet observers. The ocean is not merely a resource to be extracted. It is a complex living system. When we read about the traditional Pharaoh's hunts, the Grindadrap, where pilot whales and dolphins are driven into shallow bays, or when we see the struggle to protect the ancient kelp forests off the coast of California from marine heat waves, we are reminded that everything in the ocean is connected. The nutrients transported by migrating whales, the carbon sequestered by coastal kelp, the oxygen generated by microscopic phytoplankton in the open ocean, these are the gears of a planetary engine. The High Seas Treaty gives humanity the legal tools to stop throwing sand into those gears. It requires the equitable sharing of marine genetic resources, ensuring that the biological wealth of the deep sea benefits all of humanity, not just the few nations with the wealth and technology to exploit it. It demands that we look before we leap into new industries like deep sea mining, which threaten to destroy abyssal ecosystems we have not even begun to fully understand. As oceanographers, we look at the ocean with a deep, abiding reverence. We know that we have mapped the surface of Mars in greater detail than we have mapped our own seafloor. The ocean is a place of boundless mystery. To protect it is an act of humility. It is an acknowledgement that we do not own the sea, but rather we are entirely dependent upon it. Thank you for joining me for this inaugural episode. Until next time, respect the water, appreciate the science, and keep a weather eye on the horizon.